Thank you so much for being here, Miranda. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Well, thank you for organizing this. Yeah. I'm really excited. This is fun.
Awesome. So since Halloween is coming up, I asked you to pick an inspirational historical figure to dress up as. Who did you pick and why?
The infamous RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yes.
So
full disclosure, I asked you, Maria, and Michele to pick somebody inspirational, and all three of you picked RBG. So, of course, that means that I also had to dress as RBG.
I think great minds think alike.
Absolutely. I agree. Her death personally hit me very hard.
Yeah.
And it was the only political figure that I've ever wept at the loss of. And she was just such an amazing person.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you are most passionate about.
My mom grew up here part of her life. My mom's from the Seattle area. I have family that had orchard property here. I'm a third generation, Wenatchee native here. I've been here since the 90s. I grew up here, went to Wenatchee High School. I went to Wenatchee Valley College. I went to Central briefly, but eventually moved back and was finding myself how to be more engaged in the community. And I learned early on, I'm so passionate serving the community. I think everyone's seen it through social media and my website. With Avid and Gear Up, I was a president at the Wenatchee Valley College for the Knights of Justice Club. It was a criminal justice program and engaging with the community. Something I was really passionate about, and it comes with my background. My mom was a law enforcement officer here for nearly 20 years. And before that, she was a military police officer for another 20 years. And I grew up with the law enforcement community and some of the older attorney crowd and community activists. So I found ways to be involved. So I did volunteer in police services. So it's just not wiping graffiti off the buildings or serving people their subpoenas. It's just meeting the community and engaging and participating in community events, which led me to Special Olympics, helping out with that. And then led me to work up at the county courthouse now, where I help everybody with all of their needs. And I provide all transparent and equitable information. You listen to people's frustration, and I think it's more, some people come up there, I see, to vent, because they have a lot going on in their life too. And
for sure.
And sometimes it's hard for them to vent. Who can they talk to? And we're a neutral party in all of it. And sometimes they just want to be heard, and you just listen. And that's what I've learned at the police department as a community outreach coordinator. And at the time when I did that, it was I think, the beginning molding stages of animosity and tension with community members and law enforcement. One of my goals when I was there is to rebuild that bridge gap and just have everybody come back here, because that's why I think that leads to why did I run. I grew up knowing the Wenatchee Valley is a very close, tight-knit community where you knew your neighbor and you knew that they would be there to support you, regardless of what your background and what your beliefs are or were.
Yeah.
And that's what I grew up knowing my whole life. And I feel like this past decade has been so divided. We need to come back together and work together to move forward from it. Just to move forward from everything, because it doesn't matter who you are, what spectrum on either end you are, or what your background was. You're here together, and you're here as a community, and that's how we should all be moving forward from everything.
What do you love most about our community in Wenatchee?
Recently, I went to a funeral this last weekend, and just seeing how the community comes together to mourn, just to support each other, because we all know how important everybody can be in the community and the influence that they have on somebody. You're reminded you're surrounded by people that care and show support for the same cause. You and I can process things completely differently.
Sure.
And maybe we think completely different on certain issues, but we're here for the same reason. You know, kind of tag team some ideas, throwing them back and forth. Like your ideas may be better than mine or vice versa, but together we can come up with something so great to benefit everybody in the community, and everyone will see that.
Yeah, for sure. Coming together is really important.
Yes.
Why did you decide to run for the school board in Wenatchee?
Everyone filed to serve or improve the community in some way. And for me is to rebuild the community like what it used to be, is everybody coming together, helping each other, fighting for the same cause. In the last year and a half, almost 2 years, it's become so divided amongst everybody. And I think people are now leading to what their personal belief is rather than the belief of what's in the best interest of the community. I feel that these kids in the community and educators are the two primary people that were affected the most and didn't get a voice of what and how they should move forward in the school district. And I feel that these last few years, the leadership was kind of lost in transition with a lot of stuff that's happened in the interim. And this past year, on top of the pandemic, kind of led like, how are you going to move forward from this? How are we going to improve and better serve our community? And I feel that was, and then for me being so passionate serving the community in some way, I wanted to find ways to make a difference. And so that's why I put my name in the hat.
Awesome. What do you think the school board has done well over the last 2 years?
To improve a more inclusive environment with kids, because as we all know, we've read it in the news and what we can see, because I've seen with my youngest in the school district, it's a very diverse community now than what it is. And I think they're improving ways to try to make it more inclusive for all children. And I know with the fiscal budget, they're trying to stay within that budget of how much you can be spending rather than going overboard and going beyond that budget. So, because when you're allocated so many funds within the year, you need to try to stay within that budget. And I think they're trying to improve that to make sure that we have more monies for the following school year and beyond. I know they're trying to improve on that. And I know they're improving on making sure all kiddos are equally involved and inclusive and everything.
What critique do you have for the school board over the last 2 years?
They're lost in a transition on illustrating what is good leadership for the community. I understand there was a lot of animosity, a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of running of our own agenda on how things need to be ran. And I think finding the right group of people that are there for the right reasons to serve the community, I think is what we need. And that's what I criticize is accountability. I think some members of the board are not accountable and continue to blame others for the school board's downfall, which I think in any position you hold and you're a servant of the community, it's not just everybody else's. You need to hold yourself accountable too. And I'm nowhere near perfect. I'm not. No one was born 100% perfect. But I know there is always room to improve and ways to learn and grow. And that's what makes you a better person.
If you win, what will be your priority for the next term?
I'm making sure that all individuals at the school, the community, and administrators hold themselves accountable and owning to this is the mistakes we have made. These are the things that we didn't succeed at in these last few years. And this is where we're working at to improve. I know speaking to people on the strategic planning committee, how are we going to improve our school board's mission vision statement to make it more feasible for students to succeed? Because that's the end goal, is you want students to succeed. You want them to thrive. You want them to have a positive learning environment where they feel safe. Yeah. And I think it's finding ways to improve that and holding everybody accountable and making sure that we have the right individuals for the leadership process to move forward with that, because this isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time.
What would you say sets you apart from the current incumbent?
I am more passionate serving this community. I've grown up in this valley. And part of serving the community and being part of the board is how much time did you take to volunteer? How much time did you spend getting to know all members of the community, not just in a particular area of your social networking group? You have to branch out and reach to everybody that it may not be in your social group or in a different organization. Just to volunteer is different than to serve on a board of any kind. And you get to know people on a personal level, and that's how you build the relationships with everybody, and that's how you build trust. And that's part of that, my platform, I guess you want to say, is you want the community to trust you and make sure they hold you accountable for everything that you're doing and what you're promising. And that's what I really hold dear to myself, is that I don't want to let anybody down. I want to make sure that you're being heard. I want to know your concerns. I want to know ways to find improvement with our school board, or maybe with the community or with administrators. That what makes me uniquely different than the incumbent is the passion to actually serve for the community rather than holding a title.
Yeah, I mean, community outreach is incredibly important, especially in the current times we're living in. What is one thing you want the voters to know about you?
So besides the fact that I'm passionate for serving the community, I come from a very diverse background as well, learning a different culture that is part of me in my life that not many people really know, because people only know my mom. They didn't know who my dad was. My mom is white. My father is Filipino. I was raised by a single mom my whole life in a law enforcement community. So knowing where my culture and my background is, not very many people know that unless you actually sat and got to know me. And that's something I embrace too, is you need to accept culture and diversity in everybody's life and background, because you don't know who they came from. Just because someone's last name, you may jump to the conclusion of who they are, who they may be, rather than sitting down and getting to know them.
Is there a segment or demographic of kids that you feel are underrepresented in our school district?
Sadly, yes. Maybe not all of the 59% of the Latinx community, but a good chunk of that percentage. Also kids that, they could be white or Black or Asian that are misrepresented too, based on your socioeconomic class. The background I've had with working with kids in all backgrounds, it's not just a lower end, it's from the higher or middle class end too. A lot of these, they're misrepresented of who they are, identifying themselves as a person, because what's so great about being a child and a teen is you're learning of who you are as a person and learning what you like, what you don't like, what expresses you. And I feel in this day and age that we are now, these kids are still subjected to be A or B. And a lot of these kids are trying to express themselves without being judged. I feel like that is the misrepresentation that I have seen in this community as well. And I believe that the school district is trying very hard to find ways to improve, to accept everybody, because even though that some parents may say, I know who my child is, and they may not in the end, because these kids don't want to let the people that they love down. They want to find a place of acceptance. In some places, school and their friends and their teachers are the only places where they may feel accepted. Unfortunately, in the background of work I have seen and I've done, they felt like they're not accepted at home, it's the hard truth. And I don't think any parent wants to hear that. And I'm not here to criticize either. No. Not by any means. I think it's a
harsh reality.
It is a harsh reality. And I want, and that's part of why I ran too is to make everyone feel welcome, have it more inclusive and more accepting of everybody, because everybody's lives, everybody's feelings, everybody's beliefs really matter in this community. And you have to bridge that gap to have everyone be aware of that.
How do you plan to help those students?
Not to criticize, but to critique what was lacked at the school board is engaging with the students and the administrators and the teachers. A comment was made from a retired teacher, and he had said that you don't see very many people of the school board engaging with the students of the community. You want to fight for their best interests, but have you actually seen what they've been doing at school? And that is something I hope to make the time for when I'm there, if elected. I want to get to know these kids. I want to get to know the administrators and see the work behind the scenes of what they're doing to help our kids succeed, and meet with some of the kids and their parents. What are you doing at home that you're struggling, or what you're improving, and what is something that we can do to help you along the way? I think that goes into the term equity that people may find hesitant. Find hesitant is that
buzzword.
It is a buzzword, and I think it's something that people are not ready to acknowledge. You need to make sure everybody has those same tools, has those same resources, and they can thrive. Just because throw me a book and tell me to read it. Okay, my friend next to me may not be able to read that. So what are you going to, maybe of a hearing impairment, or they're on a certain learning plan and they're not at the same level as I am. What are you going to do to help them succeed?
Critical race theory has been all over the news, both locally and nationally, where partisan Republican candidates have used it to scare people into voting for them. What do you want to say to the voters who are afraid that CRT is going to gain a foothold in the school board?
I encourage parents to look up a college, a law college of any kind, because there are several across the country that are prestigious and great schools. Look up the class, and every college will give you a course outline material of what the class is and what it covers. I did it myself for 3 different schools, and the summary is it's expressing racism and how has it affected a society in the past, and what are we to do to improve ourselves as individuals for it to not happen again. Similar to a U.S. history class. What have we done in the past, and how are we going to do it to make it better and not go back to what we had done? That is the short sum of the CRT, and it is not on any platform here in this valley. It is not taught in K through 12. I have 2 kids in elementary school that don't know what it is. It's not in their radar. It is not in their vocabulary. And it is on the Wenatchee School District's website, and they will attest to it too. It is not taught in our school district. You know, in the harsh reality, we didn't come from a background of cupcakes and rainbows, as much as some people like to see. I think you have to learn some of the reality of what's happened and how we succumb to succeed everything, and how do we improve to be better. I think that is something that people need to be reminded of.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a fantastic suggestion. I didn't even think about being like, well, if you're super concerned, go actually look at an agenda for a class, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's gonna lay down all of it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. Miranda, some people have said that they won't vote for you because you aren't progressive enough for your affiliation with local law enforcement. Because unfortunately we live in a time and people feel like if you support law enforcement, then you are conservative, even though that might not necessarily be the case. And some voters have said they won't vote for you because you seem too progressive for their personal politics, because you seek to support disabled, LGBTQIA plus people, advocate for masks, even though that also should not be a political stance, and other marginalized students. What would you like to say to those voters?
It's unfortunate you haven't got the time to get to know me. I find it unfortunate that people are jumped to criticize of who's running and who they are as a person. I think that's a society that we're in today. You jump to the conclusion rather than researching who they are, what kind of a background they came from, or taking the time to get to know them, I think. And you can, in my years of experience of talking and meeting with the community, having a quick, up to about 5-10 minutes, and having a conversation with somebody, you can easily figure out who they are and what kind of a person they may be just by their body language, how they speak, and their tone, and just kind of how they approach at a situation.
Yeah. From
my family's background in law enforcement and the community I was raised in with law enforcement, in the end, they are good people. I think what's unfortunate is the events nationally and some locally makes it hard for people to build that trust and understand what's going on. And I think it's hard for some people to embrace or accept that. And on the other end, that I won't support or have a minimal support for other members of the community, I think goes back to my statement. I don't think you know me that well of a person from my background in serving the community in all areas of everybody, and the work I've done through school and the little jobs I've done to help I think it's the little guy in the other end of the corner to help them be a better person.
We talked about being outside of a pandemic and doing an interview like this, we would have baked cookies or something, and you mentioned making adobo.
Yeah.
What does that specific meal mean to you?
That's the culture from my dad's side. It's a popular chicken and rice meal, and growing up, my mom's white, and one thing she wanted to make sure her girls knew is where their family's from. And so my mom would teach us to make simple Filipino recipes that she's learned, and reminding us this is what my family ate. This is what you eat it. Just, I think bringing in a simple culture or background, knowing where our family came from. My mom did an amazing job reminding us who we are, rather than this is who you're going to be. You need to identify who you are as a person, and this is where your background is from. On my dad's side, I'm one of 5 kids. On my mom's side, I'm one of 2. I grew up with just my sister here my whole life, but knowing that I have more siblings and I have more family outside of this community, it's meaningful to me.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's one thing I'm very proud of my mom for, is making sure that we didn't forget who we are. And that's why I mentioned adobo, and it's really good.
It is. I've had adobo before.
Yes.
It's awesome. What is something that you've heard that you are being criticized about that you would like to address?
It's either I'm too young. I'm 31.
Oh.
I know the other running candidate, Arlette Lopez Rodriguez, was 18, and I told her, and I've told other people I've spoken to, how proud I am of her, because at 18, that's not what I was thinking about doing.
Right.
I wanted to go to college and live life, and she reminded me of myself growing up, how passionate you just want to make a difference in your community. And that's something I'm so proud of her for. And I think people need to realize that even though I'm 31, I might be inexperienced or naive, not knowing what's going on. I'm very well aware what's going on. And I think it's my generation of young adults that need to be more aware of what's going on in the community.
It's our turn.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, let's go for it.
Yes, exactly.
Do you have any experience that you'd like to share about running and helping out in the community?
So this is my first time running for an elected position ever, which is all exciting. I'm learning something new every day. I think my experience with my volunteer with the community is don't be scared. Just if you're interested and you're passionate about something and you want to help somebody in some way, just do it. Or find social network with the right group of people who can lead you along the way. For myself, in the beginning, I was scared because I didn't know who to get in touch with or who should I be connecting with. But you make the right phone calls or you just meet with the right group of people and they'll lead you the way, just lead you in the direction where you want to go. And a lot of it, you just got to go with your gut feeling rather than having someone hold your hand along the way. You're just going to have to do it on your own. And that's what I've been doing is a lot of it. I've done everything on my own. I've networked with everybody on my own to make the difference that I want to make for the community. Yeah.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for stopping by. And you've got my vote.
Thank you. I appreciate you having this opportunity for everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hit that subscribe button to stay updated with us. And any sources we've used in today's episode are below or are available on our website at progressivedevilry.com.